welcome, and I'm glad you're joining and or watching later. And um, I'm going to play a few waltzes for you and some other couple dances for you to dance at home or for you to just listen. But if you want to dance at home, whether you have a partner or not, you can dance at home just by stepping in time to the music. This is a Bay Area Country Dance Society event for dancing. So I'm playing dance music. And I'm going to start with a waltz called the Salamonie Waltz, written by Fred Weaver, an Indiana fiddler. Hmm? No, in the Zoom? Okay. So we're taking a quick break to get people into the Zoom. I'm not sure what's going on, but I understand. Okay. I'm waiting to hear from Claire that everything is working on the Zoom side. Okay. I'm going to continue with a French waltz. I learned this waltz when I was in France back in 1979, I think it was. Yeah. At a dance, a late night dance played by Jean-Francois Vreau, a fantastic fiddler, and the Italian accordion player Marc Perron. I don't know the name of it. It's just this French waltz. All right, then. Hope you're all doing well. I can't really keep track of the comments right now, but I'll just keep on playing for y'all. I hope some of you are dancing at home, either solo or with a partner if you have one, but solo is great. This next waltz I wrote years ago for my good friends Don and Kelly, Don Melisi and Kelly, who got married, and I wrote this for their wedding, Don and Kelly's waltz. And that was a long time ago, but I just heard from them the other day, and they're still married, so I guess the waltz worked, and they're living up in Washington State and having a good time. So this goes out to you guys, Don and Kelly. There you go, John and Kelly. I'm going to do another couple dance now, a Zweifacher. And each Zweifacher has a different rhythm. And this one is a very simple one. I'll demonstrate so you can see it. It's a 3, waltz 2-3, 2-2-3, and then pivot, pivot. So here's how you can dance it at home. It's 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, pivot, pivot, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, step, step, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, step, step, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, step, step, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, etc. So here we go with that Zweifacher. All right, then. I'm going to go on and play a Finnish waltz that I learned from Arto Jarvela. Hey there, Arto, if you're hearing this at all. I don't know the name of this. I'd love to. I should ask Arto. Arto, tell me the name. He taught this at the Festival of American Fiddle Tunes a few years back when he was there on staff. Taught it to his band. Here we go. You know, I can't really let a whole opportunity go by for doing a concert without giving some kind of a recipe or something. So um, my mom actually passed away a couple of weeks ago. And I've been thinking about this recipe that she used to make when I was young that sort of has become my comfort food. And I make it all the time. I just made some last night, in fact. Um, and it's a tuna salad that has the unfortunate name of tuna mold. But the mold is because it's molded into a shape, not because it's got fungus. But I'm going to give you the recipe for tuna mold, and I'm going to give you the URL so that you can see the recipe online if you want to make this. I highly recommend it. It's a great quarantine food. And it's chunk light tuna from a can and hard-boiled eggs and an onion that you whiz in the blender or grate until it's pretty liquidy, and Spanish olives, the pimento stuffed olives, and you chop them coarsely, and you mix that all together. And then you dissolve a packet of gelatin, unflavored gelatin, in a little bit of water, and then warm that up and get it all dissolved and activated with heat, and then stir in some mayonnaise, and then that whole thing goes into the tuna, and then you stick it in the fridge and let it solidify. And it kind of sounds marginal, but trust me, it's really good. So here's the URL. There you go. There you go. InstantHarmony.com. InstantHarmony.com. What's for dinner? Recipes. Tuna mold.html. If you just go to the recipes link, there's lots of recipes from the old show that Irene Herman and I used to host on KUSP, What's for Dinner, which was a radio show about cooking. And there's a lot of recipes on that archive that are all good to make. All right, I'm going to continue now with a Hambo that I composed. And if you don't know how to Hambo at home, you can just waltz to it. It's just another waltz step dance if you're not actually doing the Hambo. And I don't have a name for this one. So I just call it my Hambo. If I can remember how it goes. Here we go. I'm going to play another waltz that I composed called the Dragonfly Waltz. And this story of this is I was listening to a lot of music by a pianist, a Swedish pianist named Jan Johansson. And he was a jazz pianist, but he also recorded a couple of albums that were very, very famous back in the 70s and 80s that were jazz interpretations, very sparse jazz interpretations of traditional music, starting with a bunch of Swedish music. Then he did some Russian music and some Hungarian music, each on a separate album. And one year I was playing at the Mendocino dance camp right after a week at Fiddle Tunes. And Paul Katapish and I were driving down from Fiddle Tunes to Mendocino in one long, huge marathon drive. And I had recordings of Jan Johansson that I was playing for a long time in the car while I was driving. And we got to camp, and that night was the introduction, staff introduction and camper welcome. And then afterwards, everybody went to bed. And I was alone in the dance hall in the Mendocino Woodlands, still kind of wired and awake from driving, and nobody there. So I started playing the piano, and I was noodling around, and this waltz started materializing under my fingers. And the whole time I was writing it or playing it, this dragonfly was flying around the room, right over the piano and right around me. So it was a Dragonfly Waltz. And we recorded it on the Rodney Miller Greasy Coat album some years ago. Here it comes, the Dragonfly Waltz. I'm going to introduce a special guest. Is he here? Are you here? Hello. My son Ezra is going to join on a couple of different instruments.
Hi.
And we're going to start the second half with a Cajun waltz written by Dewey Balfa. Chere, Joules, Rose. It's all plural. It's Dear Rosy Cheeks. And I had the great privilege of meeting and playing with Dewey back a long time ago in the first years of Fiddle Tunes. And I didn't know much about Cajun music. I didn't know much about a lot of traditional music, but I was playing with whatever I could play with. And late at night in the bricks, in the house where the jam sessions were happening in those first years, very late at night when most people had gone to bed, Dewey was still up and playing. And several times I found myself sitting with Dewey playing flute and fiddle. And he loved all these old waltzes that were not Cajun waltzes, just the old Texas waltzes and very schmaltzy waltzes. And he wanted to play them, and nobody would play them with him because they wanted to hear him play Cajun music. So he played those for several nights running. And then he wasn't at Fiddle Tunes for several years. And when he came back, I was really looking forward to seeing him. And I didn't really expect he'd remember me or anything. But as soon as I saw him, I went up and said, "Hi, Dewey." And he said, "Oh, you remember those waltzes we played late at night? It was so much fun." And it was lovely just to have that connection with him. So this goes out to the great Dewey Balfa, Cher Joules Rose.
The one with the pickup?
No, we're just starting.
Oh, okay.
One, two, three. We're going to play a pair of 5-step waltzes now, French 5-step waltzes, and I'm going to show you how you dance to that so you can dance along at home. And they're twos and threes. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Like that. Here we go. Play the waltz with the D's, then D and A, and then the C. All right, we're going to continue with a traditional Irish waltz called The Trip We Took Over the Mountains. Hold on to fix my flute, which sprung a spring, and I need to get that repaired. I got my fancy rubber band fixing it. Here we go. Here we go. If I can just remember how it goes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. go. Doing next. Ah, yes. We're going to do another waltz-related couple dance. This is a French tune, and it's a combination of a waltz and a Schottische or a Schottish. And I'll demonstrate the step so you can join me at home. So the first half is a Schottish, and it's 1, 2, 3, hop, back, 2, 3, hop, step, hop, step, hop, step, hop, step, hop. Or you can do it even simpler. Go 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and whip, and step, and step, and step. No need to be very energetic if you don't want. 1, 2, 3, and step, and step. And then it's a waltz. And 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Bum bum bum. Da dum bum ba dee dee dum bum bum bum. Then back to a Schottish dee dum. And 1, 2, 3, and back 2, 3. Step and step and step, just like that. Here we go with a waltz Schottish. D minor. 1, 2, 1, 2. Keep waltzing. Thank you, Ezra. We're gonna break this up and do a cakewalk. It's an old-time American fiddle tune called "Colored Aristocracy," and it comes from the West Virginia fiddler Sanford Rich. It was composed back in the late 1800s, the late 19th century, and you can polka to it, or you can do a stepping waltz. A cakewalk is just a stepping waltz, and we're doing this because it's Ezra's favorite tune to back up. 1, 2, 3. We can almost hear your wild applause. Oh, I'm going to do one more, just like this. We're going to do a tune composed by André Marchand, a good friend from Joliet, Quebec. André played for many years with La Bottine Souriante, where I met him, but then went on to play and sing with Les Charbonniers, L'Enfer, and many other people. So this goes out to you, André, for the Javalzurka de Grande Beauté. Javalzurka is a word he made up that mixes a few dance forms, the Java, I think it's the Java he meant, the Waltz, and the Mazurka. And the Grande Beauté is a beauty mark. So this is the beauty mark Waltz Mazurka Java by André Marchand. Dédé. Ready? Well, 1, 2, 3, 1. There you go. All right. Can we play Pandero on this? Yeah. We've got 2 more waltzes for you. We will run over a little bit of time. Oh, let's begin here. We've got 2 more waltzes for you. And the first one here is the Old Madeira Waltz. And this was written by a Texas fiddler named Hugh Farr. He was in the Sons of the Pioneers and other groups. And this is a great old Texas waltz that I learned from Ruthie Dornfeld, one of my favorite fiddlers up in Seattle. Hey, Ruthie, if you're listening, the Old Madeira. One, 2, 3. All right, we have one more tune for you. And this is a Venezuelan waltz called La Partida. It's well known in Venezuela. It's a tune that I learned back in, also on that same trip when I was in France in like 79. I was traveling around and meeting different people and staying with them. And at one house I was staying, the guy I was staying with had an extensive record collection, and I was listening through it one day, and I came across a Belgian band called RUM, R-U-M, and it featured a Venezuelan guitarist in the band who'd relocated to Belgium, and they played this tune on that album. That was the first I'd heard of it, and I loved it so much that I learned it, and I went back to the States, and I taught it to Ruthie Dornfeld. I taught it to Mary Lee, who then taught it to a lot of other people, and also got really interested in Venezuelan music. And she discovered lots of other Venezuelan waltzes that she then passed on to me. So it started a whole bunch of repertoire for many of us way back then. But anyway, I love this tune, and we'll close out this concert with it, La Partida. All right, there you have it. An hour of waltzes. I'm going to put up the donation link one more time. Ezra, we'll take a bow together. Yay! Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you had a good time dancing and listening. Please make a small donation if you can.
Speaking of that.
Thanks so much for joining us.